Welcome back, everyone. It is middays. We are live again in the Element Wealth studio. We appreciate you joining us today. Our guest today is Andy Gipson. He is the commissioner of the Mississippi Department of Agriculture and Commerce. Commissioner, always good to see you, sir. Thanks for coming on.
Great to see you, Gerard. Enjoyed seeing you the other night at the Barn Burner there in Rankin
Yes, sir.
County. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Awesome event. We certainly appreciate Representative Lance Varner, his wife Lacey, for serving as very gracious hosts and making their property available for what's just a slice of Americana, isn't it, Commissioner? When we just get together and have a good time, eat good food. You pointed out Mississippi raised food, products that are produced right here in the great state of Mississippi. Just talking some politics and stuff.
That's right. It's a great event. I do appreciate Lance and Lacey doing that. And yeah, we had some really good, genuine Mississippi chicken, fish, catfish. We had beef, and we had sausage. All of it made in Mississippi. We're proud of that.
Man, it was good too. I'm telling you, it was really good stuff. That was always fun. All right, so you've had a kind of an active legislative session, I think it's fair to say, from the perspective of your agency, the Department of Agriculture and Commerce, and it seems, Commissioner, front and center has been this issue of labeling various food products. Talk to us about that.
Well, this is an issue that's been percolating now for probably a decade or more. You've had these artificial products, you've had insect-based protein, you've had other products that are claiming to be meat products. They're protein of some sort or nature, but they're claiming to be meat. They're claiming to be steak or tenderloins or any other cut of meat you might think of, bacon, and they're labeling it as that. And so people around the country have been, in a lot of cases, confused about it. But for us, I represent our farmers and the Department of Ag and Commerce, our farmers, our producers, our beef producers. It's a matter of importance that we make sure that customers out there aren't being misled by some artificial product that's not meat or bacon or whatever the case may be, that they know what they're getting is real. And so labeling is important. I'll give you one example. This has become commonplace in the dairy industry. Now you have something called almond milk. Well, I would challenge anybody to milk almond tree. You can't do that. All right. That war has already been fought and lost. It's gone so far down the road. But now when it comes to meat products, and in Mississippi, chicken is our number one industry. Poultry is number one. It's our biggest industry far and away of any other industry in the state. But of course, our beef producers are always doing a great job. Catfish, fish is another. So the point of a lot of these bills is to make sure if it isn't meat, you can't call it meat. If it's not steak, you don't call it steak. And these bills, like House Bill 913, would give the Department of Ag a lot more authority to enforce these principles as we go from store to store and place to place doing our routine inspections.
602, HB 602, which of course deals with seafood and crawfish country of origin labeling. That sparked quite the firestorm on the Mississippi Gulf Coast within restaurants and suppliers of those seafood products. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, seafood, as you know, Mississippi Gulf Coast seafood is a brand of its own. And Gulf Coast seafood is something that we hold sacred here in our state and across the Southeast. So when we saw this misbranding and, these issues, some of it was intentional, some of it might not have been intentional, but there were distributors who were marketing product as Gulf Coast seafood when in fact it was a foreign import from Vietnam or from South America, and we have no idea how it was raised, and the safety aspects of it were in question and continue to be. So House Bill 602 is one of the bills that's passed, and we're working with the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources. General Spraggins came and asked that if we would get on board and help support enforcement of this issue with them. They're an agency based on the Gulf Coast. We're, of course, statewide, so we want to help. We're 100% in favor of making sure that people know if they're buying real Gulf Coast seafood or some foreign import that they would not eat if they knew it were that. So we're on board with 602. It's passed both chambers. Both of these bills, all of these bills have, and they're in different stages of passage. But if this bill passes, we'll be conducting inspections and enforcement in the same kind of way that we do for our catfish. Years ago, it was a big deal, and it still is a big deal. People want to make sure they're buying U.S. farm-raised catfish versus Vietnamese-raised fish that is subpar and very unhealthy compared to U.S. farm-raised fish. So the same type concept applies. If you're selling Gulf Coast seafood, you're going to say you are, and then we'll make sure in our routine inspections, and DMR will, that it is, in fact, just that.
HB 1006, cultivate food products. What's that about?
That's about lab-grown meat, and it sounds like a science fiction idea, but it is real. As a matter of fact, some of your big players like Kentucky Fried Chicken in other parts of the world have already been mass producing this protein product, cultivated off of cells, mass produced. It's not farm raised. It's not from an animal. It's created in a petri dish and marketed as chicken in other parts of the world. That is also coming here to America. So this particular bill would ban the production, would ban the sale or distribution of these products, these false lab-grown cultivated cell products in Mississippi. Florida, Ron DeSantis has done that, has led the charge on that. Other states like Georgia, Alabama are doing that, and in Mississippi, House Bill 1006 would do the same thing and would give us the authority to enforce that provision.
Okay. Let's talk about something that you mentioned the other night, and I know you've been a very outspoken on this matter, and that's the movement of the cell tower at the Eudora Welty Library in downtown Jackson to the state fairgrounds, which is under the purview of your department. It looks like that thing passed the House, as you know, but it got stalled in the Senate. Senator Bart Williams, I think, said, we're looking for more information from the city of Jackson, and they've yet to provide it.
Yeah, well, I can understand why they wouldn't provide it, because it was quite a sweetheart deal for Jackson. As a matter of fact, I did a public records request on this cell tower, and I've gotten information on how much Jackson's being paid, who's paying it. It's several $1,000s a month. Now, this cell tower is located adjacent to the old Eudora Welty Library. The city did deed that library to the Department of Archives and History. But in the agreement that I have a copy of, they held back the cell tower location, and they made the state of Mississippi agree. I didn't sign it, and I wouldn't sign it, but they made that agency agree to pay the costs of tearing that tower down and building them a new tower at a new site, and to pay the cost of that site, and to build them a brand new tower, and Jackson would lose none of the thousands of dollars a month. And this bill, House Bill 994 that passed the House, would have given Jackson a 50-year lease on some very valuable fairgrounds property for the low price of $1. 50 years, $1. You do the math, that's 2 pennies a year. Now, that's highway robbery where I come from. And so I want to thank the chairman, Bart Williams. I want to thank Lieutenant Governor Hoseman for listening to our concerns. And, I'm not against moving the tower at all, but I am against this kind of giveaway program that this was setting up. And I'm definitely against the state taxpayers of Mississippi paying for Jackson Cell Tower. That agreement, which is still in place, does not require the tower to be moved, but it says if it is ever moved, that agency, Archives and History, would pay all the costs. So, and then it says when it's moved, Jackson would deed the property under that cell tower for this park. So I know it'll be an ongoing discussion, but I'm glad the bill died. It should have died.
So it's my understanding that, is this true, Commissioner, that there's a donor who has has pledged some funding to, I guess, complete. I know the Clarion Ledger says that the building has been demolished. It's not. It's an eyesore, as you know. It's still standing. I really don't see any work going on to completely raise the building. But is that true? There's money available from a private entity or person? We got a break right here. We can keep talking about it on the other side if you can stay with us.
I will, yeah.
Okay. We'll spend a couple of minutes cleaning that up. We appreciate you being on with us today, Commissioner Andy Gipson of the Mississippi Department of Agriculture and Commerce. We've got Ag Commissioner Andy Gipson joining us now in the second segment. So, Commissioner, before we went to break there, we were just talking about the cell tower. You said something about the fact that the city had already deeded this property Is that right? To the state? Did I understand you right? Who
The
is
city,
Archives and History that owns it now?
the city has deeded where the library sits to the state, to the Archives and
Okay.
History Department. If the city
Okay.
has held back the cell tower property on the condition that if it's ever moved, the state has to pay for it, has to pay for all
Okay.
of it. Now,
Okay.
you said earlier that there's a foundation, a private foundation that wants to pay. That's a wonderful thing. I hope
Okay.
that they can do that. I'm not against that. Let them move it. But if you're going to move it to the state fairgrounds, they need to pay a fair market value and not rob the value of that very expensive property over here from the state of Mississippi. They were wanting to pay that bill would have them to get a 50-year lease for $1. Now
Yeah.
that is unconscionable. That's wrong. And I knew if anybody could understand that was wrong, Delbert Hoseman could. So I talked with him about it, and he agreed. But if they got private money to pay for it, why would they need to pass House Bill 994 to give the Archives and History Department the authority to pay for it and to do all that? There's more to this story than meets the eye, and I know a little bit more, but I actually have the documents in my office right here about that cell tower. It's a big, thick file, and there's a lot of history there. They're getting paid a lot of money. Jackson's getting paid a lot of money, and I'm fine with them getting paid money. It's on their property. As I understand it, they're fine with it staying there, but somebody thinks it's too ugly for the Archives and History Department, so they want to stick it down here on the fairgrounds where our farmers and 4-H kids and FFA kids come. I guess they think it's not too ugly for them. So I'm glad the bill died, and we'll work on it in the future. If they want to come talk to me, I'd be glad to talk to them. I'm good about making deals. We'll be happy to talk to them. Maybe we can work something out, but it's going to be a better deal for the state than 50 years for $1. I can tell you that.
Yes, it's my understanding, and help me out here, that the plan is to tear down the existing structure, what's left of it. It's pretty dilapidated. It's the old Sears building is what I remember when I was a kid growing up. It was a Sears retail store. And then they moved out, of course, and the library, which used to be in a building across the street, moved into that building, I believe, is what happened. And the plan is to completely raise it and then erect a parking lot and some green space there to service 2 Mississippi museums. Is that correct, Commissioner?
That's my understanding. I think it's a wonderful idea. That's a great idea. That has nothing to do with this cell tower that's on Jackson City property that's only benefiting Jackson. And the agreement that they signed with Archives and History does not require it to be moved. It says it's preferable for it to be moved, but if it's ever moved, that agreement that Chuck Lumumba signed says that the state is going to pay 100% of the cost, and Jackson's going to be out nothing. And that's wrong. I wouldn't have signed that agreement, and I think it probably needs to be renegotiated. Maybe a new mayor could renegotiate a new agreement.
I just wonder why they deed this rather valuable piece of property under those conditions, under those terms and conditions. That doesn't make any sense. Seems like they hold the line or something on it a little bit more. I mean, it work out something that's in the best interest of all parties.
That's right. There's a way to structure it, and I've got some ideas on ways it can be structured, but that's none of my business. I had nothing to do with that agreement, would never have signed that agreement. The only way I got involved was when they passed a bill to stick it on us and give Jackson a 50-year lease for 2 pennies per year.
Yeah, I got you.
Crazy.
I mean,
absolutely insane.
I rode by it yesterday afternoon en route to an event, and it's definitely an eyesore. And I think we have to be honest. That is an unusually large tower. I think it's because of its location. It's in demand by the wireless carriers to mount their antenna on that tower, and that is, I think you're aware of that. That's a fairly common arrangement where the telecom companies pay to lease space on those towers to typically municipalities. It's a source of revenue for them, and they're willing to pay it because otherwise they can't have cell phone service. It's a revenue generator for them. That's a really big tower. I mean, from a diameter perspective. From a height perspective, it's maybe 150, 200 feet, looks to me like something like that. You know, it doesn't just tower over. It doesn't need to, given where it is, because of the density of just traffic around there. Yeah.
And as you know, the fairgrounds is much lower. I mean, we're actually the lowest point in the city of Jackson here, over an old volcano. That's where the fairgrounds is. So it'd have to be taller. And when you have the largest events in the state with hundreds of thousands of people, there are concerns that I have about the safety of that and a big wind. I mean, we had some wind blow
Okay.
yesterday. These things do fall over, and that's why we have nothing to do with that deal. They should have left
Okay.
us out of it. If they wanted the fairgrounds to be involved, I would say come see me.
As you know, it passed overwhelmingly in the House. It was Representative Missy McGee's bill. Do you feel like, Commissioner, members of the House maybe just didn't understand all these nuances that you and I are discussing right now?
Yeah, I know for a fact they didn't understand because they've come to me and wish they had known. They would not have voted for it if they had known the facts. I'm sure this probably isn't the last we've heard about the Jackson Cell Tower. I'm sure it may be discussed in future. I know that there are people who want to move it. If there are private funds to move it, you don't need a bill from the legislature to do that, to pay for that. Get it done. And more power to them. But don't use the state taxpayers' money to finance something that only benefits Jackson, and in fact is going to cost the state revenue down the road. I love our legislature. I love working with them. They're good people. There's a lot happening at one time. As you know, there are thousands of bills. So things like this do get through without being fully thought out. And I think now we have some time to think it out better, and hopefully a better solution can be achieved.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of what I'm thinking. I don't think you disagree that the plan would significantly improve that parcel right there, which is in the middle of our downtown, which is a huge eyesore. And if there's some way to get that thing out of here and completely tear it down and replace it with attractive landscaping and a parking lot to serve two Mississippi museums, that's needed and would be welcome. We just got to do something that makes sense for all parties.
That's it. That's right. Make a good deal instead of a one-sided deal. Well, we'll keep working with them, and these are some good bills. I do want to commend the House and the Senate for passing the very good agriculture and seafood bills that we talked about. I hope they will make it through the process. We're standing ready to enforce those acts should they become law. And I know there's a lot of other moving parts, a lot of tax discussion right now, a lot of other issues that are up in the air, and I wish our legislature the very best. I try to stay out of other issues when I can, but if we need to weigh in on something, I will. I will mention this. There is an important bill, the harvest permit bill that's out there. There's a harvest permit for our truckers that are carrying our ag products and other products across the road. That harvest permit gave a special weight limit for agricultural trucks and other commodities for commerce. And there's a bill out there to delete that repealer, and obviously I support that. It's being worked on both sides of the chamber. That's another ag-related bill. I didn't mention it in my release, but it's important because it does us no good to get products grown and raised if we can't ship them on the highways in an affordable way.
Commissioner, before we go here, have you received any feedback from Mississippi's farmers regarding the Trump tariffs that have been imposed?
Yeah, I mean, the feedback is today what it was 6 years ago, 7 years ago. That is, these tariffs, they are going to hurt. It's going to be painful. There are going to be products that will cost more that we're bringing in from other countries. But as I mentioned to another reporter yesterday or the day before, farmers are already hurting really bad. And I think what President Trump is doing, and they agree, he's trying to reset this trade deal that we have. We have an ag trade deficit Joe Biden put us in, where America is importing $45 billion more products from foreign countries, food products, than we are selling to other countries. That's a first. It's never happened. We're the breadbasket of the world. We feed ourselves and a lot of people around the world. Biden allowed this to get us a deficit situation. Trump is bringing these tariffs in place. Yes, they're going to be painful, but frankly, for U.S., Mexico, Canada, China, the United States, we have all the products for the most part we're bringing in from China, from Mexico, from Canada, so we can feed ourselves. This tariff war is going to give Trump the opportunity to reset the trade deal. And as we at the same time explore new markets, I'll be traveling to Panama with the Trump administration in April to look at some opportunities there to tap some new markets and to restore some markets that have been lost under the Biden administration. So
Gotcha.
there's a multi-pronged approach here. Tariffs are just part of it, but I think it'll give Trump the ability to reset all the trade deals that are out there for the benefit of our farmers, and that's what we're counting on.
Gotcha. Commissioner Andy Gipson of the Mississippi Department of Agriculture and Commerce has been our guest. Always appreciate you coming on, Commissioner. Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Good to see y'all.
You bet. We're coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.